Fermentation Nation!
In today's episode, we will be making a long-fermented white sourdough bread.
Before we start, did you know that Sourdough Bread Day is coming up April 1st? So soon. The first ingredient is Faye Total 0% yogurt, and you need to use the whole thing. The second ingredient is about 3/4 of a cup of the Daisy brand light sour cream.
And next, you're gonna need 1 teaspoon of sea salt.
And
Flour
our last ingredient, the most important and most vital to the process of fermentation,
is the yeast.
and now we bake! To start, you have to put your 3 cups of bread flour in your big mixing bowl. Next, you have to add the whole entire yogurt with active culture in it.
Next, you're gonna add 1/2 cup of sour cream.
Next, you're gonna add 1 teaspoon of salt. Next, we have to add 1/2 teaspoon of yeast, which is very important to the making of the bread.
And now we stir.
For 5 to 7 minutes.
Yep, we're still mixing because
We need to make sure
everything is incorporated and that
all the yeast
is incorporated because
so that it rises correctly.
yeah, and it ferments. After mixing for about 5 to 7 minutes, this is what you should have.
Next, you're gonna take another bowl. Well, first you're gonna remove the dough from the first bowl. Then you're gonna take another bowl and put some olive oil or cooking spray, it doesn't really matter which, just so that it doesn't stick, and pour it into the bottom. And then put your dough in the bowl. Make sure it's in a round ball. So make sure your dough is in a round ball, place it in the bowl, and roll it so the whole thing is covered in olive oil. Place it in a warm environment and let it sit overnight, and this is when the fermenting happens.
Yep.
So you're gonna cover the bowl in plastic wrap. You might have to use 2 sheets to cover the whole thing, like both directions. Okay.
Right.
Alright guys, see you tomorrow.
This is what the dough looks like after it ferments overnight.
So we're gonna take off the cover and sprinkle some flour onto our counter. That's a lot. And then take out the dough, place it on, and then we're gonna knead it. And by the way, so last night, the yeast is what induces the process of fermentation. So what it does is it takes in the sugar that's in the dough and then in the flour. And so basically then this mixture performs cellular respiration until there's no more oxygen, and then it starts doing fermentation.
There are 2 types of fermentation, alcoholic fermentation and lactic acid fermentation. And in this case, this is alcoholic fermentation. And with this dough, when it goes in the oven, the alcohol will be burned off.
After kneading the dough for 2 to 3 minutes, form it into a round ball and place it back into the container.
This is the dough before the final rising process. While the dough is rising for another hour, make sure you put a skillet in the oven at 450 degrees so that it heats up for when you are ready to put the bread in.
Now, we're taking this pan out of the oven. It's screaming hot.
Place a piece of parchment paper on the pan.
Yeah.
Transfer dough from bowl into pan onto parchment paper. Put it back in the oven for 30 minutes to bake.
Take it out of the oven. Put it back in the oven for another 8 to 10 minutes so it can turn golden brown. After our bread has had the additional 8 to 10 minutes, take it out of the oven.
Let it cool for 5 to 10 minutes.
And here's the final product! Yay! A loaf of fermented sourdough bread.